Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, March the 5th, and it's an okay day where I am. It's a little bit chilly. The overnight lows are in the, frosty zone. So, sort of minus 15 to minus 20 degrees Celsius. A little bit warmer in the daytime, but not balmy, that's for sure. I was out running some errands on Saturday, and I was leaving one of the stores in the evening and walked out with my purchases, which you'll see, with my purchases, and was going like, oh, there was a light snow falling. It was fairly quiet where I was. And I went, oh, it feels like Christmas. I went, wow, that is the wrong thing to be thinking in March. Yeah, it's not uncommon for it still to be chilly and have snow and all that kind of stuff, but I'm like, you are supposed to be thinking spring thoughts, not Christmas thoughts. Anyway, I had a good chuckle at myself. Anyway, if you are a new viewer, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. And as always, if you are a returning viewer, truly appreciate those of you who come back. Love getting the comments, which we'll be talking about in just a second. I just had that moment going like, no, I do have yes, I do have everything. Sometimes you just never know. All right. Okay. So number one, thank you for all the lovely comments about enjoying my freezer stories. Who was it? Michelle. I loved her comment. She was like, she enjoyed the tales from the freezer. Thank you. That best phraseology. I may use that in the future. It was quite funny. I was talking to my mom this week and had explained that I had told the story of when I had refilled and organized the freezer, and she said, she's like, I was telling the story and she didn't remember. She was like, and then she remembered as soon as I said, like, you couldn't find any peas. And she's like, oh yeah. And then there was like this big stack on the bottom of the freezer. And I'm like, yep, that was me. She was actually more interested, like, who came over? And I'm like, I don't think that's the point of the story. But anyway, and I laughed because the number of people who made comments about using their patios and garages as fridges or freezers over the winter months, absolutely. Certainly here in good chunks of Canada, that is not an uncommon thing. And in fact, I saw an Instagram reel where they were sort of saying, like, this is a typical Canadian party in the winter, and showing somebody walking into an apartment and shoes everywhere, which, yep, that happens. There's always just like, if you're having a party, there's just a huge amount of shoes by the front door, and then they look up and on the big screen TV there's a hockey game on, and then they walk over to the doors to the balcony and you can see all of the beverages out there on the balcony. So yes, using your outside, whether it's the patio, the balcony, the freezer as fridge/freezer capacity is very common where I live. And in fact, back in December when my lovely Snowboy was helping me with my battery problem, we were chatting out in the garage and he kind of said, looks like you need to do some shopping. You don't have any pop out here, because I do have a little section where I keep the pop. And I smiled at him and he went, oh, wait a minute, is it freezing? I said, yep. He's like, so you brought it in? I'm like, yeah, don't worry, it'll come back out. Because I laugh, because he knows I have this little section. It means it comes in a little bit pre-chilled. When it's, minus 25, when the pop freezes in the garage, that's a little too far. So when it gets to those temperatures, I actually have to bring it in before I put it back out. But yeah, I kind of laughed at that one. It's like, I think you need to go shopping for some pop. There's none out here in the garage. Anyway, those are my tales for the freezer for this week. Thank you to those of you who had the lovely comments on my Lent stitch. Wait till you see it this week. It's working so far, but stay tuned. We're going to talk a little bit about more of that when we get to the topic. And then Dee I think it's great that you and I are working on the same alphabet piece this year, and I'm keeping you on track, which is awesome. So I hope yours is looking as good as mine. So that, of course, will take us right into stitching. So we'll start with my Sunday stitch, which is Little House Needleworks, Spring ABCs. This is what I'm working on. And the plan for this is that I need to get one letter done every week is my goal for this alphabet stitch. Wendy is working on that with me. So I remember to check in advance. So by the end of today's stitching, I need to have, excuse me, all of J completed. So we all know I'm running a little in advance, so that part's already done. So here's where I'm at this point. There we go. So there is Spring ABCs. So what did I do this week? I got, sorry, I'm doing this on a 28 count Star Sapphire Jobelan with my own colorway, which is listed in the notes section down below. And so what I got done is I got the grass in front of the house. I got all of the white in the windows and the door filled in. There's 2 stitches missing here, which is going to be, I don't know, I think it might be the roof color. Anyway, didn't get that done, and almost finished the fence. I ran out of thread and I went, we are out of time on Sunday. It's fine, we can come back and get that done, and got the letters caught up to M. So that's coming along. Like I say, I needed to officially be to the end of J by the end of today's stitching. So that part is accomplished. I'm expecting by the time we get to the end of today's stitching, I'm hoping to have all of N completed as well, so that everything to N will be done, which means I'll be a couple of weeks ahead of schedule. But there's how it's looking so far. I'm very happy with this. I think it's coming along swimmingly well. I remember to put a table down there so I have a place to put things. Which brings me to my Lent stitch, which is the spring bell pull from Stoney Creek. Now I am stitching this from the magazine because I had a magazine subscription back when they did subscriptions. This is out of the February 2006 Stoney Creek Magazine. This magazine there are no back copies left, but they have released the bell pull as a leaflet, which is leaflet 155. I am stitching this on the called for 28 count Plum Shenandoah linen, which has been discontinued by Zweigart. So here's where I'm at as of last night's stitching. So last Sunday, you know, I had all those glorious statements about what I was going to do, and I was going to do the full stitch count. I didn't. So I finished the last 77 stitches and the back stitching on this to get all of S completed, and I called it a day. I went and done. So I didn't quite do the number. Anyway, it's fine. And then, of course on Monday I started working on P. P is the one, I wrote it all down here because I'm pretty sure, yeah. So the letter P, out of the 6 blocks I'm doing, this is the one that has the largest amount of stitches. So this is largest amount, this is the number 3 stitch count. So we're certainly, I'm pretty pleased with that sort of in the early days of my Lent stitching before things can get really crazy, that we're sort of knocking off 2 out of the top 3 heaviest stitches. The next heaviest letter is N. So anyway, so there is S, fully complete. The only back stitching in that particular block are the words. Here is the letter P. So I've got approximately 221 stitches left to go to finish the cross stitches in this. While I finished off the big letter P, I got the back stitching done, so that color is now complete. This particular block has a lot of back stitching because this butterfly gets back stitched. So I think it's really great. I love the fact that we'll have the ability to see what the block looks like pre-back stitching and post-back stitching, because I always love those comparisons about what does it look like with the back stitching versus what does it look like without the back stitching. I always find that fascinating. Anyway, so there's where we're at. So technically, I need to have the letter P completed by end of day Tuesday to stay on track for my overall Lent stitch goal. I'm expecting that I will have the letter P completed by end of day Monday. So I will have lost a little bit of ground compared to last week because I had the first block completed by Sunday night. This one will be completed by Monday night, but this is also a much larger stitch. Well, much larger. It's about 325 stitches more than the S block. But still keeping on track of getting one block done a week. Now, it will be interesting when we get to the letters, which so the lighter letters, which are G and I, are the two lightest ones. So R is another decent stitch, less than S, but still a decent number, and then we'll have a light one. So we'll see how that goes. I feel like we are still on track for keeping up with my Lent stitch. Love how it's coming along. I am using all of the called for colors except for the yellows, and again I have put my color changes into the note section below if you're wondering what the yellows are that I'm using. I was really happy with how, because if you've watched anytime, you know I'm not the biggest yellow fan, but I'm really glad that I made them paler, because I think this combination with the pinks and the purples with the paler yellows works for my purposes. With the originally called for colors, it would have been a more intense, right, just sort of those outer tips would have been a more intense yellow. So I'm happy with the paler yellow for my purposes. So yeah. So there's my Lent stitch. It's coming along. And then on March the 1st, which was Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. Sorry, I was doing math in my head. Wednesday, I did start my March Quaker. So From the Heart Needleart by Wendy. This is my March Quaker. I only got a little bit of a start. So I worked on it twice. I worked on it March 1st and I worked on it March the 4th. So I worked on it on Saturday as well, and got a little bit done. I am doing this on 40 count White Verdal. So far, I am using the called for colors, subject to change. There's one that I'm still having a debate on, so stay tuned for that. So I've really only put in 2 lengths of thread on this particular piece. I'm really concerned it's going to take me like all month to get my Quaker done, but we're going to talk about that when we get to the topic. My question for you, my lovely viewers, is, so this is this is one, and certainly there was an alphabet provided for February, and I was watching somebody else who's working on their Quaker, on these Quakers as well, about, you know, that there's enough room in here that you can put in initials, and they're putting in the initials of their family members that have birthdays in that relevant month. Now, I'm having the debate. Do I want to do that as well? And I haven't decided. If I were going to do that, March is a good month because I do have 2 relatives who have birthdays in March. I would have to go back and put in an initial into January, but in my family we've got fairly concentrated birthdays. January, March, April, and December are the months, right? So there's only 4 months where I would be putting in initials in. So that's why I'm having the debate. Do I put the initials in? Do I not put the initials in? Thoughts, opinions, love to hear from you, what you think I should do. But yes, so it at least got started. Not a ton of progress, but it got started. All right, and that is going to bring us to Stashquisitions, which is going to be interesting. So I have some Stashquisitions. I did not do a very good job because the things that I bought, well, the cross-stitching things that I bought were some electronic patterns. So those patterns off of Etsy that I was talking about, I went ahead and pulled the pin on those. So these are a series, so these are some patterns by Threadworx, Stitchery, Needlework. Anyway, they're off of Etsy. I will put a link to them down below, and they have a series of monthly baskets. You know, I have a problem with monthly things and seasonal things. Anyway, and these showed up, and I just went, ooh, I like those. Now, I didn't buy all 12. I've only bought some of them. I've bought the winter baskets, and I've bought the summer baskets. You know, pace yourself. So this is the December basket. Very poinsettia-y. This is the January basket, which I love, 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 love. It's very purpley, periwinkly with the snowflakes. Loved it. So it's not like the ice blue, which, don't get me wrong, I like those too. Look at the January Quaker, but I just thought it was a great combination for January. And then this is the February basket. So not too bubblegum pinky and not too hardy. Now the card that the bird is carrying does say "Be to my Valentine," which, okay, fine with that. But again, it wasn't too bubblegum pinky. It wasn't too hardy. It wasn't too, you know, some of those things that I look at some pieces for February where I go, that's just it's a little too far for me. And then in the summer ones, this is the June one, which is okay. I'm probably going to make a couple of changes in that one. It's okay. I'm not going to stitch the bee. This is the July one, and this is the picture off of their site. So Threadworx is a UK-based designer. So the flag in their July basket is the Union Jack. But when you get the chart, it comes with 10 other nationalities already provided. Wow, look at that really wobbly hand. Anyway, so there are 10 flags all ready for you to put in. So nicely enough, there is a Canadian flag, so I won't have to think too hard about making those changes. So that's the July one. And then this is the August one about peaches, which again I thought was a lovely choice because I looked at it and went, oh yeah, I really do think of as August as peach season. So technically I also liked how it looked on this color of fabric. Now I did look at the pattern. It says that it's stitched on natural linen, which is good, way too brown for me. So that's clearly got to be something in the photograph, but I actually liked how it looks. So I'll probably be putting mine on something that kind of looks gray, heathered anyway. Maybe check back later. I don't know when I'm stitching these. You can buy the baskets individually or you can buy them as a set. So I did have a coupon and I bought the summer set and I bought the winter set. I have yet to buy the spring or the fall, but I am expecting at some point that those are going to show up in my stashquisitions. So those are my cross-stitching related stashquisitions. I have other stashquisitions I'm going to show you, and I'm going to explain why I'm showing them. I'm going to start with this one. Yep, this is a big ball of yarn. And I just want to be very clear. So I acknowledge that this is not cross-stitch related stashquisitioning. But this is absolutely unequivocally Flosstube related stashquisitioning. And I'm going to name names. This is entirely the fault of Cheryl, the Happy Handcraft Studio's fault. It can't possibly be my fault. Just because I went out and I bought it doesn't mean it's my fault. This is Cheryl's fault. Because she's a very bad, terrible, horrible, no good influencer. And she made me. So I went out and got this ball of yarn. Because if you haven't been watching her, she is working on a temperature blanket. Which I like how it's looking. Now, I'm going to say right off the bat, I am not planning on stitching. I'm not planning on crocheting a temperature blanket this year. I don't like to be an early adopter, so Cheryl's leading the way. She's doing hers. So far, I like how it's looking, but we haven't hit the summer yet, so I need to wait and see how the whole thing looks. So I'm going to let her go first and figure it all out for me. Cheryl, also, by the way, I'm expecting that you will keep track of the total number of balls you need to do yours. Because she lives in the greater metropolitan area that I live in, so our temperatures will be similar. So whatever she does, it will work out for me. Now, the problem is when she knits things, it's totally fine because I am not a good knitter. I did learn how to knit as a kid and I was always bad at it. I'm not a good knitter. So I'm totally fine when she shows knitting. I'm totally fine when anybody shows knitting. It has no appeal for me because I know I'm not a good knitter. I'm totally fine when she shows all the beautiful quilt projects. Excellent, fantastic, no problem, because I'm not a quilter. I'm okay, and I'm okay not being a quilter. So I'm okay with that too. When she pulled out the temperature blanket, which is a crocheted blanket, I can crochet, although I have not crocheted in decades. And in her notes, she puts the link to the YouTube video about the temperature blanket and how to do the pattern and tips and tricks and 27 things. And I know that you can practically find a video on YouTube about anything, but I'd been very good about, like, I hadn't done anything about trying to find crochet videos. Like, why would I do that? Till she was crocheting that dumb blanket. Anyway, so I went and I watched the video. And I watched the video and I went, I'm pretty sure I can do that. So I ran out and bought my 1 ball of yarn and the correct size crochet hook for this, and went, I'm only gonna, with a coupon, it was the whole thing. This particular yarn was not on sale when I ran out and got it, but I used my coupon. You know, I spent, you know what, $6, maybe $7, I don't know, and came home and went, okay, I'm just gonna try this and see if I can do the pattern that is called for in this temperature blanket. So here's my sample. It's not perfect, it's totally fine, but it's got the gist. And I went, I can do this. And what's worse is I kind of enjoyed working on it. So I get when Cheryl says, like, you know, she's trying to keep up to date, right? So she gets the high temperature for, in my head, this is how she's doing it. She gets the high temperature for the previous day, and that day she stitches that across the row and puts it away. Sounds good. I can see that being appealing. So there's my sample. This is Cheryl's fault. So I did this and I went, okay, not bad. You know, maybe not perfect and blah, 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 but not bad, since I haven't, you know, done stuff in a long time. So, okay, no problem. And I went, so I'm not planning on doing a temperature blanket this year, but I enjoyed the crocheting, and, you know, I bought the ball of yarn, so like I should probably do something with that. So purchase number 2, this is also Cheryl's fault, just so we're clear. I kind of went, well, I don't want to do a temperature blanket this year and blah, blah, blah. Now I want to use up that ball of yarn that I've just bought. Sorry, I'm going to pull it back up. But I don't necessarily want a full blanket of this. So then I had to go out and get this ball. I wanted to add a variegated. So here's my variegated to go with it. And then I just, you know, because I haven't done this in like decades and decades, I went, so I should just quickly crochet up something just to see how this variegation looks. So I just did a bunch of rows of single crochets. Not exciting, not a pattern, not anything like that. Sorry. Actually, let's leave that. Anyway, so I just did a bunch of single crochets and went, oh yeah, no, I'll be fine. So, right, some combination in some pattern of that, yeah, that'll turn into something. Now, so now I have my yarns. So then I just needed to find like the blanket, the pattern for the blanket that I'm doing, right? So then you go off down that rabbit hole, Cheryl. And I have now downloaded, as far as I'm concerned, all the crochet patterns I'm going to need in my lifetime. Because as usual, there are a ridiculous number of free crochet patterns out there. So I've downloaded a ton. I have a whole folder now sitting on my computer upstairs that are crochet patterns because of, you know, Cheryl. Anyway, and then the problem is once you watch that YouTube video on the crocheted temperature blanket, you'll never guess what the YouTube algorithm does. It gives you other YouTube videos about crocheted blankets, which I have now watched some of those, which meant I had to go out. I had to, Cheryl made me go out and make another purchase. This is Cheryl's fault, just so we're clear. Let's keep on track. So on top of that, because I'm not going to do the temperature blanket like Cheryl's doing this year, Like, that would be ridiculous. So then I had to go out and get these. I have 3 of each of these now. Cheryl, for this blanket that I saw on YouTube, because the thing showed up in my, you know, recommended videos for you, and I watched it and I went, oh, you can do that? Cheryl. So I now have a bunch of yarn in my house. She's making me become multi-craftual. It's entirely her fault. It had nothing to do with me. She made me. Just so long as we're clear on the story that we're going with that. So, yeah, so I know, so those 3 balls, I know what that one's going to be. And bizarrely, that's not the one I'm going to intersperse them. So you might actually, this might be a channel about cross stitch and random crocheting. Like, how did that happen, Cheryl? Anyway, so now I just have to go back through the patterns that I've downloaded to decide what I want, which pattern I want to use for this. And ridiculously, you know, there's videos on just anyway, whatever. This is Cheryl's fault. Cheryl's fault. It's entirely her fault. She made me. All right. With that, let's get into the topic, which is February wrap-up and March plans. So we have now broken into March. You have the gist of some of my plans, but let's do the February wrap-up. Because of course I have my 10-year planner, which I'm using. So far I like it. Since we did my January wrap-up, in between my January wrap-up discussion and today, you saw that I added into my stash these star stickers. So I, of course, dutifully, once I showed them on Flosstube, I went back to January and put my stars in. So colored stars are for the starts, and the gold stars are when projects get finished. And embarrassingly, it was fun. Now, I've said to myself, you cannot afford to become a sticker person. So all the people who decorate the Book of Days, no judgment, you can do whatever you want. Lots of people do it. I think that's great. I'm trying not to turn into a sticker person. Just the same way I was not trying to be multi-craftual. Cheryl. Anyway. And I don't have a lot of real estate to do 47,000 stickers into my book, right? So that's going to contain me. Now, the problem is that I watched Sunshine Stitchers, and Sheila showed her book, and she used her sprocket to put pictures of her finishes into the book, which I have now looked at and gone, you know, it's not like I have 8 finishes in any given month. And there's like, there would be room. So even in January where I had 3 finishes, there would be room enough in here for me to put in, there was a blank block, blah, blah, blah. There's room for me to put those pictures. So another question for you lovely viewers, if you've got them. Joanne, we'll need to talk again. So Joanne, I know she's using a Kodak version of that. Sheila is using a sprocket. So if you have one of those little printer doohickeys that you can just print out little pictures from your phone, can you wade in and if you've got one, tell me which one you've got and why you like it. Or if you've got one and you don't like it, I'd like to hear that too. Because I'm now going, like, maybe not a bajillion stickers, but maybe stickers of my finishes. I know. Who am I? Anyway. With that, let's turn the page to February. So this is the section that I like to call Nerding with Numbers. So this is my numerical achievements for the month of February. So what did I do? So I had worked on a total of 9 projects over the course of the month. I did a total of 8,828 stitches, plus the stitches that I did on my Celebrating Traditional Stitches canvas work piece. I don't have the canvas work piece in Markup RXP, and I'm not manually counting things. So it's 8,828 plus what I did on the canvas work piece, which is great. February, as we all know, is a shorter month, but I managed to get, so just from the stitch number, I got almost 300 more stitches in, which doesn't include the stitches, so that was good. I had a total of 4 starts in the month. So I started the February Quaker Celebrating Traditional Stitches, the canvas work piece, Deb's Winter Biscornu, which is my library stitching piece, and the Spring Bell Pull, which is my Lent piece. I had a total of 2 finishes that month, my Jubilee pin cushion and the February Quaker. So technically I'm up a net. I have 2 more projects that I have in the rotation, which is fine. That's not bad. And one of them is my library stitch, right? So that's a different category. So yes, so I did that. Did my stickering, my stars on here. There's room in here, even though it's a short month. There's still room in here if I wanted to put pictures of my 2 finishes, which is what I'm leaning towards doing. So that is my February. It will be, so the interesting thing is as I am processing and uploading this video, we all know that behind the scenes I have spreadsheets going on a wide variety of stitching related items. So this will be, while I'm processing this video, I will be updating my spreadsheets to put in my February numbers, which will mean we'll have a very Nerding with Numbers section come the end of the year, because I'm tracking things now. I was out with some friends for dinner this week, and I, over the course of the conversation, was laughing because one of my friends was having a conversation with her high school teenage daughter, and she asked her daughter, said, "So what is your dad's love language?" And the daughter, without hesitating, went, "Spreadsheets." And I and my other friend, she's also in accounting, we just howled, going, "Oh my goodness, that's yes, we can see that spreadsheets is a love language unto itself." Anyway, so we all just howled, and I went, "Yes, in behind the scenes, yes, I'm sitting there with my spreadsheets going on while I'm tracking things." I don't know that spreadsheets is my primary love language, but spreadsheets certainly is something that I enjoy doing because I'm numerically inclined. But anyway, in case anybody's out there, if you're wondering, there's a new love language that has been identified, and it's called spreadsheets. Anyway, so that is my February wrap up. Pleased with how it went. I got a lot done. Like I say, my progress on Celtic, I was gonna say, is it Celtic Snow? I think it's Celtic Snow, right? It's bad when I don't know the names of my projects, but don't worry, I've got a book beside me, Celtic Snow by Northern Expressions Needlework. Yes, the progress on that was awesome. So I'm very pleased with what I got accomplished. This is March the 5th. There are all sorts of, there are all sorts of things going on with what people are working on in March, whether there are all sorts of things going on. One of the new ones that's kicking off, of course, is March Madness, which is sort of run sort of like basketball playoff season thingies and whatever. Now, sometimes I say to myself I would like to participate in March Madness, but the problem with March Madness is that it's in, well, March. And March is usually Lent. Usually most, if not all of Lent on a fairly regular basis is Lent. It's only when like when Easter is really late that the whole month of March is not part of Lent. So March Madness, I love the concept. Like I say, in my head, I toy with doing March Madness, but my issue with March Madness is that it's when I'm doing Lent, and I make the personal decision that I would rather do my Lent stitch than do the March Madness. Everybody makes choices, and that's the choice that works best for me. Doesn't mean I don't love seeing what everybody else is doing and how it looks and 27 other things, but I'm going to work on my Lent stitch. Now, since the 1st of March, it's going to start getting interesting because I have my Lent stitch, but as I discovered with my March Quaker, because my Lent stitch has enough stitches in it that it, you know, takes a good chunk of my stitching time, which does not leave me a lot of time for, you know, working on other projects. Like I say, we are at March the 5th. I have gotten two lengths of floss into that particular project. We are not, I would say I'm probably at, that's not true. I'm probably at about 10% done. We are on the 5th of March. I'm really worried about that. And as we go through March, I still have my other stitching that I have to work on. So I have my designated days, which are the 6th of every month. I work on my queen stitch. We're going to have a little discussion about that in a minute. I have the 11th where I work on Remember 911, and I have my 25th where I work on my little bits of Christmas plus library stitching. So I've got, right, so March 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, I did not do a good job. Like, only 2 of those days did I manage to squeak in a little tiny bit of stitching on another project. So now that we're getting into, like, so tomorrow is the 6th, so I need to work on a queen related project. And how does that fit in with getting my Lent? So the Lent stitches go first. Then I will work on the designated project for the numerically designated day, which means I'm unlikely to get stitching on the March Quaker. So I don't know when that March Quaker is going to get done. Anyway, check back next week and see how I did. But I am sitting here going, like, you do need to make some progress. You need to get the March Quaker done in the month of March. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, so that's the concept of how my plan for the month is going. In my head, like, it wasn't going to be quite so hard to get the March Quaker in there, but the March Quaker is turning into a problem. And then Cheryl made me go out and buy yarn, and now I want to crochet. So I don't know how that works. Anyway, whatever. This is Cheryl's fault. She's messing up with my system. Don't worry. Just so you know, I forewarned her I was going to be using her name in vain on this week's Flosstube. She kind of laughed. Anyway. Now, that brings us to the next topic. So one of the things that I have been talking to Cheryl about is, because the 6th is when I work on my pieces for the queen, which I have a few, clearly we're going to need to do a coronation stitch. Now, fortunately for me, the coronation of King Charles III is going to be on Saturday, May the 6th. So Conveniently for me, it's on the 6th, which means I can still stay with my once a month, the 6th of every month. I'll work on something royalty related. My whether it's my Queen Elizabeth stitching or what I decide to do for my Coronation Stitch. So I sent Cheryl some options. We haven't gotten too much further in the conversation, but I'm pretty sure both Cheryl and I are planning on doing a Coronation Stitch. I don't know what it is. So if any of you are interested in doing a Coronation Sal, my questions for you are: 1, are you interested in doing a Coronation Sal? 2, if so, do you have plans? Do you possibly have insight into patterns that neither Cheryl nor I have yet seen that would have our interest? I would like to have made a decision in the next couple of weeks, just so I can, at this point, I'm expecting it's going to be a digital pattern, but it'll just let me get my life organized so I can have my stuff pulled together for my Coronation Stitch, and then be ready for May the 6th. Now, fortunately, Lent will be over by then, so it won't necessarily mess up anything else that I'm planning on stitching. So I love that his coronation is occurring on the 6th because it works with my cross stitching schedule. I'm really grateful that Charles's team factored that into their planning. Anywho, we're going to go with that. Anyway, so yes, if you're interested in the Sal, let me know in the comment section down below. 2, if you've got ideas for the Sal, that would be awesome too. All right, I'm just looking around to make sure that that's the last of the things that I'm blaming Cheryl for. Anyway, whatever. Couple of last announcements before we wrap up. Wow, I'm having a hard time with words this week. Just a reminder for anybody who is in the greater Calgary area about the Korean silk embroidery exhibition that's going on down at the downtown Central Calgary Library. I was actually planning on going and seeing this week, but the day that I was planning on going, anyway, as usual, around lunchtime, all the schedule started to changing and 27 things, and I didn't manage to squeeze it into the schedule. But I am planning on going to see it. It's running all month down at the downtown Central Calgary Library. The next announcement is also, if you are in the greater Calgary area, if you are interested in coming stitching live in person with people, we will be having our stitching at the library at the Signal Hill Library here in Calgary on Saturday, March the 18th from 9:30 to 12:30 in the morning. You do not have to let me know that you're coming. We've got lots of room in there for more stitchers. As you come into the library, come through the main doors, head towards your right, past the photocopiers, and there's a room on your right. Another funny story is that as I was having dinner with my friends, I mentioned to them that I had this stitching group that was meeting at the library, and they were very supportive. They thought it was awesome. Neither one of them is any remotely close to a stitcher and not interested at all in doing it. But just for those of you who are coming on the 18th, we might have a couple of random people just stopping in because they're my friends and they just want to see. Anyway, which I said they were more than welcome to come. Not a big deal, but they're more than welcome to come and see what's being stitched at the library. So that goes out to all of you as well. If you're just interested in coming, whether you come to stitch or whether you just do a quick cruise by to come and see what people are working on, you're more than welcome to come and see what we're stitching. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up. As always, thinking of the people of the Ukraine. Man, that story. Anyway, it's been over a year. Anyway, I don't like what's happening in the news. Thinking of the people of Turkey and Syria. It's always, I know that the news focuses on sort of like what's current, what's most recently happened, and my parents have a friend who has gone over to be part of the relief effort, and you know, they flew over a week ago, 10 days ago, and they were going for 4 months. So it may not be top of news, but certainly the relief efforts. You know, this friend of my parents is going over for the next 4 months. She knows exactly what she's doing for the next 4 months as she tries to help people that were impacted by the earthquake, the floods in New Zealand, you know, train crashes in Greece, lots of people and families affected by a wide variety of events. So thinking about all of those, and certainly of thinking of people that are closer to home that have things going on in their life that are stressful and emotional and all that kind of stuff. So thinking of those people as well. With that, I hope that you're staying safe. Safety first, safety first, safety first. I know I'm a broken record, but it really is a critical thing to having a good life. Safety first. Like I say, as I was coming out of my shopping on Saturday evening, the snow had just started falling, and I was like going, it's okay right now. But in my head, I was like, about 60 to 90 minutes from now, man, those roads are not going to be quite so fun and overnight and chill anyway. Warm enough to snow, and then really cold temperatures overnight can make for some interesting driving conditions. So Toronto cleaning, no, yeah, it was Toronto that called the snow situation. I was going to say Vancouver, and I'm like, no, wait a minute, it was Toronto this time, which is why it was a bigger deal. Anyway, I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're staying healthy. I hope that you're finding time to do some stitching, and that you're finding enjoyment, peace, contentment, feeling creative, all those glorious things. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, guys.